Alright, so with the new Batman animated show on the horizon, Batman Cape Crusader, I thought it was good enough time than any to take a trip down memory lane and visit a show near and dear to every Batman fan's heart, and that's Batman the Animated Series, which is well known as being one of the greatest superhero TV shows of all time. But in this video, we actually won't be talking about the show whatsoever, as instead, we'll be taking a look at the comic book series that released back in 2020 as a continuation of the show in itself, known as Batman The Adventures Continue, which is based sometime within the new Batman Adventures and was strictly released to be based within that show's continuity, and feel like you're watching the show through the comics, as each volume is actually released as seasons just like the shows are, which I think is a really cool gimmick. So that's why in this video, we're going to be going over the first 2 episodes of the first season of Batman The Adventures Continue, so you're all caught up with it as I read it all, so you don't have to. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now let's get into it, shall we? So the first episode of the season is called Hardware and opens up to Batman swinging across the rooftops, attempting to stop Bane from whatever it is he was doing, which is never confirmed ever in the rest of the issue. But this encounter ends swiftly after Bane passes out due to Batman hitting him with a tranquilizer, which seemed to have taken 30 minutes to sink into his system. But after Bane's taken care of, Batman moves the sights onto the main issue at hand, which is a giant robot rolling rampant across Gotham without any source of who's actually controlling it, in which the comic then switches perspective from Batman being the primary narrator to a mystery man that we get a glimpse of in the shadows in this comic strip, who seems to have a strong connection with Batman from his dialogue. But for the sake of the video, I won't reveal who it is for those of you that actually don't know and don't want to spoil just yet. But after this, the robot breaks into Wayne Enterprises, to which it steals an item from a testing chamber within the lab and escapes by flying away, just like that, which Bruce reveals in the following panel that it was actually a piece of alien hardware that the robot stole, that Superman had brought to him, and Wayne Enterprises had been doing tests on it as a favor. But all that is put into a pause as Bruce gets invited out of the blue to go to a cocktail party at the Cloud 9, which Lex Luthor attends to Bruce's surprise as they converse about Superman's disappearance after an apparent fight on the moon a week prior, and the giant robot that was attacking Gotham, which leads to Batman attempting to contact the Boy Scout, to which he doesn't respond, confirming to Bruce that Luthor wasn't lying in their conversation. And to end the issue off, Batman tracks down the location of the hideout where the giant robot was being stored, and it turns out in a huge twist that Luthor had been the one behind the robot the entire time, and he was actually the one controlling it, which leads us straight into the next issue called Hardware Part 2, and picks up at the moment where Luthor has Batman in his grasp as he reveals to Batman that the one Superman was fighting on the moon was actually Brainiac, and that after the battle, Luthor tried rebuilding using his brain from that battle, but in true Batman fashion, he had already scanned through Brainiac's skull and knew it was completely wiped, to which he manages to escape by activating the Brainiac that Luthor had created to escape Luthor's grasp, which was being overpowered by his exosuit. Batman then returns to the Batcave, to which he retrieves an overpowered suit of his own in order to combat against Luthor's exosuit, as fighting him in his regular gear would not allow Batman to have any chance against him unless he had another member of the League with him, which he doesn't have access to at this point. But after retrieving the suit, Alfred and Bruce make an interesting observation about the schematics of the robot, as it seems like it was being powered by a huge battery that made itself out to look like a cockpit for a secondary pilot of the machine. But after this observation, Batman proceeds to interrogate one of Luthor's men guarding the original hideout in true Batman fashion, which initiates a fight sequence between Luthor and Batman, as Batman realizes that Luthor was weakened by the blast he took from Brainiac earlier, to which Luthor retreats and starts piloting the robot instead of fighting him head to head in his exosuit. But in the end, his plans are completely foiled for good as Batman jolts the robot with a kryptonite charge that frees Superman from within the robot, as it turns out that Luthor had somehow mind-controlled Superman into acting like a battery to fuel the robot's power, which I really didn't see coming and was so random. But I really liked all the twists that came with it, especially since we got to see a Superman cameo. But to end the issue and the episode off, we transition back to the perspective of the mystery person we were introduced to in the first issue, as he walks down an alleyway, reliving his past as he gets heckled by a resident in a building, to which he pulls out a gun on him as he sees the bat signal in the sky, as he says he's got much bigger fish to fry than small altercations like this. But now let's move on to episode 2, which is Mentors, which picks up exactly where episode 1 ended, as we follow this mystery character to the reason for the bat signal in the first place, which is at downtown Gotham, as he stands at the top of a building getting a full view of the Bat family taking on Clayface as he tries to destroy the movie theater, as a movie studio remade a movie without him in it, as Matt Hagen is Clayface in this iteration of Batman. But as the fight reaches climax, Robin managed to freeze Clayface, which surprisingly didn't stop Clayface from moving, which initiates the entrance of Deathstroke to save the day as he slices Clayface into with his sword, and for the first time appearing in the Batman animated universe and meeting Batman in general. But as soon as he introduced himself, Batman knew instantly who he was and knew he was a very dangerous mercenary, to which he proceeds to find out his true identity along with Jim Gordon with the name Slade Wilson, which takes us into Deathstroke's next encounter with the Bat family, which is with Batgirl in specific, as she stops Roxy Rocket in an aerial battle high over Midtown. She manages to run into Deathstroke as he takes off his mask, revealing his true face nice to her, attempting to get her on his side to seem friendly, insisting that he take her under his wing and that she could go way farther than she is now under his supervision, to which he ultimately denies his offer. But before she drives away on her bike, Deathstroke points out to her that she's being watched, looking directly at the mystery man at the top of a building that's been stalking the Bat family since the beginning of the series, which initiates him to retreat and lay low until it's further necessary. Batgirl does proceed to tell Batman and Robin about this interaction with Deathstroke and the stalker the next day, to which Batman tells them both to stay sharp and to stay away from Deathstroke until he learns more about him. But as we all know, Deathstroke is of course out to get Batman, because why else would a known mercenary want to all of a sudden fight crime alongside the Bat family in Gotham City? But to end this issue off, we're taken to Deathstroke's hideout, where we see his partner Sonny, who is a new character introduced to the series, and it turns out that it was both of them that manipulated Clayface by drugging him, which initiated the fight in the first place, which ultimately allowed Deathstroke to make contact with the Bat family and someone get him on their good side, as it's revealed his true intentions are to kill them, as along with Batman, he's also searching for this mystery stalker, as if he gets too close, he'll also end up being killed along with the Bat family. And this leads us straight into the next issue, Mentors Part 2, where it opens up to Robin driving back from an apparent mission he was on with Batman, which he was sent home because of his curfew of all things, but is then sidetracked due to seeing Deathstroke swinging through the buildings, arriving at the location of Firefly's target location, to which Robin arrives right behind him and is told that one of his jobs, Firefly had severely injured himself, but apparently rebuilt himself, becoming deadlier and crazier than ever. We are then swapped to the perspective of Batman as he takes down the Wonderland gang in a literal 1v4 situation, but is Batman against a literal bunch of other normal human beings, so he's guaranteed to win. But just as he's about to finish them off, he sees the stalker that was told to him by Batgirl and attempts to chase after him to the top of a building, but of course being way too slow, he manages to escape, which are brought back to the fight with Firefly as he finally reveals himself and sets fire to the entire building, attempting to burn them both alive. But at this point, we know Deathstroke's true intentions, so in the back of the reader's mind, we know something's up. But at this point, it seems like Firefly is such a dangerous threat to the duo, as to close this issue off, apparently he turns into a fire-breathing dragon of all things and shoots fire out of his mouth, which was so confusing to me, as under all that armor, he's just a normal human, which makes no sense whatsoever. But now on to Mentors Part 3, which opens up to Robin and Deathstroke attempting to escape the wrath of Firefly, which is a sentence I never thought I'd ever use, because it's Firefly against two literal fighting masters. But anyways, Alfred notifies Batman that Robin hadn't made it back home, to which he manages to track his location and take down Firefly with the help of Deathstroke, and somehow manages to escape in a way I'm not sure of, even though it seems like he blew himself up. But looking at the panel after that, it seems like Firefly actually had escaped. But of course, Batman is completely furious with Robin and scolds at him to go home, and talks to Deathstroke one-on-one, and relates to him that he doesn't like the amount of interest Deathstroke has in his sidekicks, and essentially tells him to stay away from them, and that he'd only ever quote-unquote work with them when their interests meet. And in this case, he just tells Slade to contact him when he finds Firefly, and again, in true Batman fashion, he vanishes into thin air. But now we're taken back to Deathstroke's hideout, where it's revealed that the one that actually hired him for his services wasn't actually all the government agencies he listed to Batman before, but actually Luthor himself, and that he was paid off to kill Batman. And to end this issue off, Slade promises Luthor that within the next 24-hour period, he will have killed Batman, all while we see the mystery stalker outside of the building with the wiretap listening to the entire conversation go down, as he now knows other than himself, there is now someone else that intends to kill Batman, and that it's going to be a real challenge, especially with someone like Deathstroke to compete with. But now we've reached Mentors Part 4, and the final issue in the second episode of the first season of Batman The Adventures Continue. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you've made it this far, as I post videos every single week and have tons of shorts on the channel dedicated strictly to the Arkham games. So if you're into that sort of thing, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell to keep up with my weekly uploads, as it helps me out a lot. But now with the promo out of the way, let's get into the final issue of Mentors, which opens up to Slade's conversation with Luthor at the end of the last issue, but is shown in the panels that he's actually in possession of Firefly's outfit, which leads us to the roof of the GCPD building, where Batman finds Jim and some of his officers put to sleep by knockout gas set by Deathstroke himself, as he intended to use the bat signal to call Batman, but was stopped by the officers in the process. Batman then asks Deathstroke where Firefly is, to which Deathstroke tells him he'll have to follow him for that information, to which he leads him to his location, where we are then swapped to the perspective of Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, as she works her day job in the library, as Tim, aka Robin, contacts her about having no idea where Batman is, as he cut off all communication with him. But as they're having this conversation, Barbara finds a bookmark with the words "It's a trap" written on it, that's revealed to be left by the stalker that's been following the Bat family since the start, which are brought back to Batman and Deathstroke, where they find a bomb that Firefly had placed trying to blow up the Tri-State Dam, to which Batman responds saying it would take more than that to destroy. But of course, Batman already questions whether or not it's really him or not, as the moment he does, Firefly comes out of nowhere shooting his fire. And while this is all happening, Batman's having his own inner dialogue about all the differences this Firefly has versus what he's faced before, and deduces that it cannot be the same person. And the moment Batman manages to take him down, he rips off his mask to reveal revealed that it was actually Sunny under the mask. And at that very moment, Deathstroke finally makes his move and takes his first swing at Batman using his Hephaestus sword, according to Deathstroke, the deadliest weapon ever forged. Batman then questions why he went through so much trouble to set him up, which he relays his entire plan to Batman, as he explains he was first gonna kill Batman and then burn his body, making it seem like Firefly's doing, to which he searches for the real Firefly, who is actually out of commission because of his injuries, and kill him, which in his mind would make him an avenging angel to Gotham and take both of Batman's sidekicks under his wing and his entire enterprise altogether. But of course, again, for probably the 4th or 5th time in this video now, in true Batman fashion and timing, both Batgirl and Robin show up to stop Deathstroke and save Batman, and he instantly turns on them and tries to take them out along with Batman. But apparently Batman had knowledge of the sword Deathstroke wielded and throws a frost blast he used on Sunny onto the sword, which somehow makes his entire suit catch fire and is ultimately stopped when he loses consciousness to the heat, and Batman finally puts out the magic fire with the plain old extinguisher. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but hey, we're talking about a world where there's a guy named Superman, so anything is possible. But to finally end this issue and episode off, we're brought back to the Batcave, where Batgirl relays to Batman how she found out where he was and the fact that it was because of the bookmark she found while in the library, to which they all realize that the stalker that's been following them knows everything about them and knows who they are and knows exactly what their opponents are doing along with it, and finishes off the comic asking questions of what he truly wants with the Bat family and why he chooses cat and mouse game to get close to them. And we see all of that in the next episode titled The Darker Night, which won't be in this video but in another one potentially in the future. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that, because I'm enjoying this way too much. But anyways, with that, we've reached the end of the video. Hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I really hope y'all enjoyed this comic so far, as in my opinion it's really interesting and really fun, and is a really cool way to continue a series that's so beloved in the animated universe. So if you're liking this series so far, let me know in the comments if you want to see more from this, and hit the like button so I know for sure. But in the meantime, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, as I post videos every single week and have several shorts on this channel dedicated to the Arkham games, so you're always part of content no matter what. Click on the bat symbol to check out my comic breakdown of the Arkham Asylum prequel comic, as it's formatted very similar to this one, but just about that comic. So check that out if you're interested, and check out the video to the right of that to see a video I think you'll like in my channel, because if you like this one, you'll definitely like that video. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all next week with another video. Peace!